Tracy Gill, and I'll give her the chance to introduce herself and talk through a little bit of who and what she does. Just bear with me. I'm going to just share your slides too. Now see them.
Thank you, Naz. Thank you so much. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak here today. It's really nice to share our story with you all. So I'm Tracy Gill. I'm Senior Manager for People at the Nottingham Building Society. Talking a little bit about our purpose and history, I'll just give you a very brief background of the Building Society. So if you could go to the next slide, please, Naz. So we're a mutual building society, and our purpose is to help our members save, plan and protect for their futures. For over 170 years, we've helped our members own their own homes, provide a safe and secure place for their savings and support them in managing their finances. We were founded by Samuel Fox, a local Quaker and quite a prominent local grocer. And we're ranked in the top 10 building societies with assets over 3 billion. We've got over 500 employees across our locations. So our head office is in Nottingham. We've got 48 branches across various locations, including Leicestershire, Nottinghamshire, Lincolnshire. So we go from St Albans to Skegness. Could I get the next slide, please, Naz? Thank you. Talking a little bit about our ethos. So we've got a culture of doing the right thing for our members, for our team members and our communities. And that ethos underpins our decisions and how we act. We are a responsible society. We have a programme of activity around responsible society, and we want to create a lasting and positive impact on our people, our communities, our environment. And we've got a number of initiatives and activities linked to each strand. So to give you some examples there, we've set some long-term and short-term goals, including increasing our employee engagement score to 85%, increasing our women in finance target for having a female representative leadership population of 50%, and reducing our gender pay gap to sub 30%. We also want to train a minimum of 5% of our total number of employees as mental health first aiders by the end of 2021. We want to create an environment where our team members feel they belong, they're cared for, and everyone's contribution is valued, and we've got a huge focus around wellbeing. Our plans also focus on helping our communities towards greater financial wellbeing. So we enable employability and financial capability. So we're working in our communities. We've got a career academy programme running at the moment. So we're trying to focus externally as well as internally. Our ambition is to help to enable every one of our team members to feel they belong and they're valued, and we do this under our health and wellbeing and D&I banners of Because You Matter. Could I have, thank you. So wellbeing strategy and COVID. So pre the pandemic, we did have and we had a developed wellbeing strategy based on the 4 pillars that Ryan touched on earlier: emotional, physical, financial and social. We've got a range of wellbeing support, and we've focused on raising awareness more than anything, really. So things such as our mental health first aid programme. We do a monthly e-brochure called Your Health Matters that focuses on a range of topics, from health topics such as menopause to family matters to financial wellbeing. So we'll focus on a different topic each month. Since the outset of the pandemic, we've continued to prioritise the safety and wellbeing of our team members. All of our branch locations remained open through the pandemic, so we were classed as key workers in the sense of people accessing their money. So all our locations stayed open, and we didn't therefore participate in the furlough scheme. Team members, if they did have to shield or self-isolate, did remain on full pay. We had people caring for dependents, and any pay that was exhausted, we would top up, so that we made sure people were protected through the pandemic. Just on the next slide, we've just got some examples of some of the comms that we issue. So we have, on the left hand side, we've got a wellbeing brochure, so that just talks about all of the advice, support, everything that we offer through the Nottingham. We've got a big focus on volunteering, and we see that as a really positive wellbeing initiative. All our employees get 2 days per year to do a volunteering activity, and we partner with some local organisations. And then you can just see some of the topic areas that we cover there. So one of the things that I wanted to focus on today really is that we recognised, as has already been said today, that the pandemic had a significant impact on individuals and families, rising unemployment, reduced opportunities, and it led to an increase in those seeking help, financial advice and support. Although we didn't furlough anyone, we recognise that our team members may be experiencing financial impacts or difficulties because family members may be impacted, or somebody may be furloughed or having been made redundant. So we decided to introduce a COVID financial support fund. It was set up in February this year, and it's there to support team members who are struggling financially as a result of the pandemic. We had a range of team members from across different functional areas that helped to develop the principles and the processes around the scheme. And we did really debate what to call the scheme as well, because originally we were going to call it a hardship fund, but we felt that was quite hard, and it may not give people may not feel comfortable accessing the scheme if they were viewed as being in hardship. So we came up with the financial support fund. We developed some guiding principles, so it's there to give team members financial support to get back on track, and it's really linked to our ethos in terms of helping people plan, save and protect for their futures. It's open to all employees regardless of length of service and regardless of income, and the value is set at £1,000 per employee per annum. And we have a panel of 3 execs who meet to consider any applications received, and the applications are anonymised, so the execs don't see who's applying for the grant. If I can go to the next slide, please, Nils, thank you. So applications are submitted to our payroll manager. He's coordinating all of the applications. He will review them, set up the panel. Any application forwarded will be anonymised, as we've said. Individuals are asked if they've accessed support, so we particularly ask if they've gone through step change, or we ask if they will do that as part of applying for the grant. And the panel meet on an ad hoc basis as and when applications are received. So we're not asking people to wait a month for the next panel. We make sure that that's a timely process as well. And anything is approved or declined, and that's the final decision. And obviously then, if approved, paid through payroll and subject to tax and national insurance. So we've received a number of applications. Can I just go back one slide, please? Sorry, thank you. We've received a number of applications during the year, and all of them were approved. The scheme hasn't been abused whatsoever. I think our team members absolutely value having the scheme. It's been well received, not just by people who've accessed the scheme, but also our wider employee population who recognise that we're providing that support for our team members. And there's really been that focus on personal responsibilities, what the individuals have done, and what we've seen coming through is that people here are doing everything possible before they access this scheme, and they'll give us the examples of what they've done. It really is probably a last resort for them. It's not there to pay for the Sky TV subscription. They've cancelled all of those things. It's there to pay for the bare essentials, and people are prioritising their bills and all of that. And some of the things that we've seen are really this is about probably putting food on the table for some of our team members. So, and the impacts have been with the family, so partners who maybe have been self-employed, who've suddenly not got that income anymore, and that's what's hit. In our branch network, it's predominantly female, And so often, we've got a lot of part-time people. So maybe through the pandemic, that's been the only income as well. The scheme's going to stay open for the rest of this year. So we've committed to review at the end of the year. So we haven't said it will fully close. We recognise we've got the winter to go through and there's some of the unknowns still to come. So we will review towards the end of the year. Can I go to the next slide? Thank you, Nuz. So we offer a range of wellbeing support. We try and make sure that we're signposting people to the right places. And informally, we've been referencing Step Change. We've just been working closely with Daniel. We've just set up a partnership with Step Change, which we're really pleased. So we're providing proactive support, not just the grant itself. We also focus on other areas, and just a couple of examples of planning for retirement. So, back to our ethos of plan, save and protect for your futures. Planning for your retirement, we'll do retirement workshops. We'll work with partners to make sure everybody's doing what they can to protect themselves for the future. And also we have a brochure called Your Rewards Matter, where we've got a list of all our rewards that people have access to, because I think sometimes people do forget what's available to them and what support is out there. And if people don't feel comfortable talking to line managers, hopefully we're providing the support in a proactive way. Thank you. That's it from me. Happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tracy, for that.
Thank you.
I'm going to stop sharing now and then be able to open up to some questions on that. But in the first instance, I think it's to commend an organisation that's actually taking a much more proactive approach to supporting financial well-being. I think for some of the employers that we have on here and that we'll be sharing outside is actually to show that by taking that proactive approach, it doesn't have to be complicated. There's already a resource within Step Change. How do you capitalize on that? Because there is one opportunity where you can signpost people to a resource, but then also if you want to become inventive, as I guess, the example shows here, is that actually you can then go in and support through a scheme such as this one. I think it's also important to actually note, I think you said something, Tracy, that really resonates, is again, it's not about them paying the Sky TV. They've already exhausted all types of avenues of, I've tried to do as much budgeting, etc. So yes, I guess there's a question from Ryan. Tracy, is there any chance that the support scheme could stay open even after the winter and on a permanent basis? Is there some form of way that it could work?
I think so. I think that we could set up a financial support scheme for the future. I think that's something we'd need to discuss at a senior level. But as I say, we wanted to just monitor for the rest of this year and see how things go. We also want to get feedback from our team members. But yeah, I think that's something that we could discuss, absolutely.
And then I guess I had a question as well, is in terms of, we talk a lot about the formalities, I guess, the process and the procedure, but also and we talk about quantitative data, but more the qualitative, the stories that come through. Have you found that there's been this difference in people feeling supported, and that level of productivity or trust that they're being understood and being helped?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that's with people who don't access the scheme as well. So people are seeing that we're doing what we can as being a responsible society and employer, that we're trying to support in the best way we can. We're a mutual, and so we haven't got endless funds available, but we will do what we can in a proactive way.
Thank you for that. Are there any questions from our audience? Please do either type up or and let us know. It is also another comment. It would be great to share some of the stories of how these schemes have really helped anonymously. I think, again, as coming back to respect the fact that not everyone can be open about sharing their story, because it is very hard, to share your story and own it. But perhaps, yeah, that's something we could look forward to being able to share some of those those emotional stories of how it helps.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But any questions?
No, sorry, I was just going to add something that came from some of our other chats from Darren at Leeds Council, just to share again a bit of best practice, that this is a really hard subject for people to talk about. We've kind of we understand that, and I think what Darren has had some success with at Leeds Council is changing the perception of this, and rather kind of saying, right, we've got this workshop on, or we're going to do this. Do you want to come? Do you want to put your hand up? Changing the narrative really to, this is something that could be affecting people, and come along to this or look at this information to educate yourself to be able to then help others. And he's had a lot of success from that. Daniel, I know you've had the experience in the past of trying to put on workshops or try and have stalls or stands, exhibitions talking around debt. And there'll be other stalls that you definitely wouldn't think people are going to, and they're going there rather than, what I'm talking about, and as rather than talking about debt and money matters. So I think that's a really key one for anybody that's listening that is involved with this, implementing it within their organisations, to change the narrative and maybe reach out to champions that you have within your organisations, whether they be mental health first aiders or financial wellbeing champions, whatever it is that you've got, that they could get involved first possibly, but not perhaps for themselves so much, but more so to try and help others. And I think that really increases engagement and gets more people talking. Do you have that, Tracy, at all with kind of champions and people within the organisation?
Yeah, we've been speaking more to our mental health first aiders and our colleague council, because we felt that they were probably the channels that people might talk to. So we've as I say, we've got a wellbeing guide and the rewards matter. So we've shared all of that information. So if people don't want to come and talk to us or line managers, they can go and get the right support and right advice.
We've got some questions together. I think the two Lukes were on the same wavelength because they both asked similar questions. So was there a strong take-up of the scheme, Tracy? Was it surprising one way or another? And again, Luke Moran has also said how many people took up the scheme. Yep,
I can share 8. So since February, we've got 535 people approximately. We've had 8 people. We've publicised, so it is there, and there hasn't been a huge take up, but pleasingly as well, because that shows that people are using this on a real need basis, as opposed to abusing the scheme.
And I think I think you did mention as well that it was all 8 people that applied and got approved. So it's been 100% approval, and it does go through a kind of a washout council. So and it's representative of the people they work with. So it's not leadership getting involved in deciding this person deserves it versus that person. It's actually a commitment by certain employees, and it's also protecting the individual. I think you've also mentioned about protecting the individual's identity, so nobody knows who's applied. It's just our payroll manager will receive the applications. He will then go back to the individual if there's any questions or points that he just wants to clarify. He will then take that application to our exec panel of 3. At that point, names are removed, so nobody knows. So I did see something to say, is there any types of employees? I genuinely don't know the answer to that question. So we wouldn't know, and then he will process through payroll. So people can feel that they can come forwards, and we very much did that for a reason, as you just said, Nuz. We didn't want it to be seen that certain people were selected over others. Equally, people do live to their means, and that could be somebody in a role who is a more senior, but if their family income is impacted, we recognise that they may also need to apply for the grant. So we made sure that it was accessible to everyone. I think, Dan, one for you as well, around this perception of who we think is asking or is in debt. I mean, I don't know if you can comment further on that, because I think often people have that perception of, oh, it's that person that hasn't managed their finances properly.
We've seen a real mix, to be fair, in terms of who's in debt. Obviously, I've kind of mentioned about what's caused that debt problem, but we've seen a real shift with the pandemic as well, in terms of things like we brought out a product specifically for people who had COVID-related debt, where they were able to kind of manage those debts, and they would look to recover in a shorter amount of time because their work had stopped. And the idea was that they would go back to work within kind of 12 months and look to recover in that phase, rather than somebody who might have been struggling with debt for a while. And we saw with those individuals that their typical balances were up near £20,000, as opposed to kind of those people who've been struggling for a longer time, which was more kind of 12, 13,000. And what we've actually seen is that for those individuals who came through for the COVID plan, for example, that they were on the plan, managed the payments, and then increased the payments once they went back to work. So that's been a real success. So it has been a bit of a shift. But yeah, we see people from, any walk of life, and it's the fact that it can happen to anyone with those reasons that we went through. I suppose for some people, the higher up they are and the more that they're earning, or their kind of household income is, the further they have to fall, because everything's kind of okay. They manage their larger mortgage, their larger bills, their might have cars on finance, etc. And all of a sudden, once that's kind of pulled from under their feet, that's when we see that they've got a longer way to fall than those people who might not have had those outlays initially.
Yeah, I've seen some comments coming through. So Monica, you're absolutely right. It's so vital at this moment in time, hence why we are actually running these sort of webinars where we bring best practice together with the right organization. So yes, absolutely a need for step change. You mentioned the Money and Pension Service. Yes, they are involved, hence Richard. So it's on one of the sessions as to what sort of guidance and support to MAPS give in terms of employers and financial well-being, and the tools and the resources. So that's the purpose of the 6 steps, if you like, is to ensure that we are raising awareness around fantastic organizations that are out there really wanting to support. So I'm going to pause there and hand over to Ryan to kind of discuss next steps, as it's a really good segue. Please keep the questions coming, and just let us know if there's any more feedback.
Brilliant. Yeah, thanks, Nuz, and thanks, Tracy and Daniel. It's been fantastic. I hope you've got some value out of that and found it as interesting and useful as I did. It's something that myself and Nuz, especially, we're really passionate about this area. Although I don't deal with it on a day-to-day basis like Daniel does, it's really important. That's why we've put it as the first step. And I just think that there's free resources there that can be utilised by companies right the way across the country of all sizes by just getting in touch. It doesn't cost anything. It's just a comms exercise to signpost and to make people aware of what's out there, what's available. And if you ask anybody, do you know of step change? Far too many people, unfortunately, at the moment don't possibly know of it, and that's what we want to try and change. So.